Going live.
Hello.
Let's see if I
See
did it right.
everybody?
I think I did it right.
There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll try not to put that in my face.
And I put it on straight.
Give us a second because
Yes.
we're trying to get it together.
Yes.
So let me turn the before I go. That way I can see you in the chat.
My glasses
Oh,
on so
hi
I can
CP
see.
in Texas. Thank you so much for being here already. We love you so very much.
Hey, CPN.
We really appreciate how you're always championing us, and thank you so much for talking about the Rainmaker. I appreciate it. For those of you who are new, the Rainmaker is pretty much a law of attraction and law of alignment on steroids, and so many people have been getting really great results from it, and CPN Texas is one of them. Is always talking about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome to this chat where we're going to help you stand in your power, divine feminine, because you are a warrior. So not a warrior, a warrior. So we want to help you stand in that in your power today. It was interesting because then Perla had tagged me on Facebook, and she said it must be in the air. Oh, I forgot to turn that off. Oops. I'm gonna have to stand up and you're gonna see my finger in a second because I forgot to turn that off. See, you don't. For those of you who are scared starting your own channel, I don't know why you're scared. If you hang out with me long enough, you're gonna like, oh, this girl like always forget stuff, and
She don't have it together.
yeah, she doesn't always have it together. And yet, not having it all together, I still was able to retire myself from corporate life. So there you go. So Perla had tagged me, and she said, fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm, and the warrior whispers back, I am the storm.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes.
I like that.
That's totally good.
Yes.
Thank you, CPN. She's CPN saying, I had an amazing reading with Divine Unisouls 11 as well. So we have a couple watching.
That was a good read.
I want to change the title or add things to the title so we can get more eyeballs.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about how you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to always play the tricks of the trade with them. Change it. Maybe you. Let's see. Oh, no. Okie dokie. I can't do like two things at the same time. I can't multitask. I try, but something always gets left off if I try to do that. Videos. Can I edit? Videos.
Wonderful.
Okay. And DF. Okay. Yeah, if I ain't gonna use more eyeballs on that one. Oh, this shirt looks really nice. Like pow. I wrote my Shiro shirt today. It lets you know I'm standing in my power. And I got my queen socks on too. You can't see that. I wish I was flexible. So bam, there it is. Look at my socks. Look at my socks, people. Dressed down in my queendom from head to toe.
So we wanted to thank April Williams, who actually suggested for us to do this in our next collaboration, because there is so many things. If you didn't get a chance, you want to catch Divine Unisouls 11. Her energy pickup reading for the DM last night was quite powerful, and so many things are happening right now, especially with this eclipse, this full moon eclipse that happened yesterday. Today is 1/11, and I love the number 111 because whenever I see it, it reminds me of Deuteronomy 1:11, where it says, and God will bless you 1,000 times more, just as He promised. So we are expecting, and our intention is that you're going to be blessed immensely. You're going to get empowered by this information and the readings that'll kind of unfold a little bit more. But we wanted to talk about, April wanted us to do something on how to stand in our power. Especially with empaths, the more sensitive we are, the more we're able to pick up And one of the things that has been a theme in the last few days, especially, is that people are picking up energies and they're internalizing them. And so, what do you do to figure out, like, where is that coming from? You have to ask the question and pause. So, we want to start with, like, kind of a foundational thing for how to stand. You may or may not know, depending on if you're new or not, but I was formerly married for a very long time. I got married when I was I was gonna be 22 that month, so I was 21. I was married for over 20 years. I'm 45, I'll be 46 this year. And in that relationship, he was the love of my life. He was a high level soulmate, but he was the love of my life. However, because of his brokenness, I got cut on his pieces, and that eventually led me to try to kill myself 4 different times in the marriage. And so when people look at me because I'm so bubbly, it's CPN's like, no, you're 26.
Yes,
So it's interesting because one of the things that my DM said to me, hi Kathy D, how are you, sweetheart? So happy that you're here. So one of the things that that my DM told me last night was that I said, oh, I miss your face, and with this before you came over. And then he said, oh, I miss your face too. And I'm like, well, what do you miss about it? Being a total girl. Don't just parrot me, tell me why you miss me. So he said, because your face is, you're always so bubbly. And that's one of the things that he loves about me, is that I'm always kind of, bubbly and joyful space. However, which is kind of my nature because I'm a Sagittarius rising, but even in a lot of times when we have these personality gift clusters who are very optimistic, people don't check in on us, and they don't realize the deepness of our wounds and our hurts, because we've learned to to try to put on a facade and to try to press through. And so I had learned that earlier in my life, because I grew up around a lot of abuse as well. There wasn't any abuse in my home. Our home was actually the safe haven. So we had our aunts and our cousins who would flee from their families, who would flee from their situations, and we would literally sometimes hide them. We would hide them in our attic. We would shelter them. We would help. We would be the place where they can come and just kind of reset their life. And so, being in that situation, and I'm Puerto Rican, so being in that situation, we were taught in that culture that we don't talk about those things outside of our family. So we had to always put on this facade as though, covering up the bruises of my aunts. I remember one uncle, my aunt was pregnant. She was like 7 months pregnant, and we're in Chicago, and it was the winter time, and he was chasing her down the street with a blade. Okay, so, and she stayed with him. I was like, as a little kid, I remember seeing that, and hearing about it, and not understanding if he loves you, then why would he try to kill you? Why is he chasing you down? You're barefoot in your pajamas, in a gown, holding your belly and running on the street in the middle of winter. Why do we have to hide all the kids up in the attic? And always having to put on this facade. And that's one of the things, is that, we put on this facade because we're trying to stay high vibe, we're trying to shelter our heart, but there are things that happen around us that are out of our control. And so how do you stay in that place where you are protecting yourself but not hardening your heart? Because when your heart gets hardened, then you can't really create, and you can't really move forward. Or if you do, you start going into this hustle mentality, or you start transmuting that energy of hurt onto the things that you're doing, not realizing that, because you haven't healed from those things, you're actually, longevity wise, are causing harm, because now you're transmuting that energy of hurt and woundedness into those things that you're doing.
I'd like to add on that. April Williams taught me that, and I didn't know about that. Was that, stop the commercial? That when you close off your heart as well to that, you're not only closing your heart onto the situations, or you going to hustle mentality, but you're also cutting off and blocking off love from your DM, and you're receiving it as well. So it's not just like when you're thinking about saying, well, I'm just going to protective mode. You got to remember, I told you all before on my channel, pretty much I picture it like a drawbridge, like back in the medieval times, and a lot of times, like even when they had knights trying to come back to the castle, a lot of times they would say that they had to, they had to pull up the drawbridge, because even if they were coming back home for safety, if they weren't there by a specific time, that drawbridge is very hard to go up and down. And so even if they were the last night that was left out there, they still had to put up the drawbridge, and they would leave some of those knights out there. So that was pretty much a thing that I think of, that like no matter what, even if you're not the enemy, it doesn't matter, because you're trying to protect. You even letting out the people who are really fighting, defending, and being on your side when you put up that drawbridge, or you cover up your heart chakra as well. I too grew up, I have a different experience with that. My experience pretty much is, okay, sound. My experience is that more so, okay, my sound's really low. I might have to put the thing on. My experience is that with that is that my parents, they grew up with, what did I do with that? Both of my parents had like a tumultuous, lot of abuse, verbal abuse that went on between both of them. And so with that caused for me to, like, when I come home, we would be one way, but when we went out in the public, our thing was where we were acting very Pollyannish, pretty much when we went out in public. And so nobody would have known. We looked like the perfect shortcut family underneath 5 feet. But then when we went out into public, it was a whole different story. It's like, oh, they're so perfect. But when we went back in the house, it's like, I go to my room, you go to your room, and we just don't speak to each other. So that's what I wanted to add. Let me add on my mic, because they said my speaker is low and yours is high. So let me go on. You continue on. Let me fix this, because they said can't hear me.
So one of the things that is important in your walk in order to stand, I mean, eventually you have to do these things yourself, because you're not always going to have a lifeline, which, to reach out community. But one of the things that was a lifeline was to make sure that you're tapping into the right kind of community and creating within yourself a strong inner circle. And in the inner circle, I mean, you do need somebody who's going to be like your cheerleader, right? Who's always going to be with you. That's kind of my daughter. Like to her, she's always, I ask her like, how was something? How did I do something? And her answer is always like, oh, that was fantastic. Because she's like a super fan, right? So you want to have somebody who's kind of a super fan, but you want to make sure that you also have somebody there who can that you can talk to, and you can kind of, even if you offload a little bit, because sometimes you have to purge that out. And one of the things, we're always talking about the fifth chakra, right? Because our words matter because they become matter. But sometimes you just need to be able to express it to get it out of your system. Because if you internalize those things and you're eating those words internally, those words that you're eating because of the sorrow is then really becoming poisonous in not only your body, but in your soul. Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And that's like part of the creation center, because we're told that we will prosper and be in health as our soul prospers. It's an exact equation. So that's why we're always an advocate of personal development here, because even in the business world, we're shown that the level of your personal development is going to be the level of your success. The more you do work on self, the more you're going to be successful monetarily and in the business world. It's the same thing even in the spiritual walk. And sometimes we don't do the practical things because we're like, oh, that's 3D and that's not really 5D. But we need to be wise in that. We need to do the personal development things, which is why Divine Unisouls has that amazing workshop of, the inner child workshop. It's like, what is it, 5? I had 5. It was 5 weeks. And she offers it for free, and then you can get like her notes, which was her amazing PowerPoint, for a really great price. But she has it on there for free because she was led to just sow into the community, because there's so many people who, they're wounded, and sometimes you're like, well, I don't know if it's really inner child, even if you don't think of it as inner inner child per se. You can just think about like it's just inner work, period. Whether you want to call it inner child or you want to call it inner work, it's just really personal development. But if you don't deal with those issues, then you're not going to have it. So one of the ways that you can build a community, if you don't have someone where you can speak to, that's why we're always encouraging you guys to talk to each other, in the chat. Try to keep it though related to the topic. So that way, we don't go offline and the energy kind of stays clean. But we want you to engage in the chat, because not everybody has the opportunity to just say, hey, this is that really meant something to me, or can you explain that to me more? Right now, we're creating this. This is an opportunity for you to connect to some members of the community, the spiritual community, to get what you need. So that's what you need. You need to be able to create an inner circle. And if you don't have those pieces that you need, somebody who's going to be your cheerleader. If you don't have one, we'll be your cheerleader.
Yes.
If somebody and then somebody else who can kind of be the place where you can talk to, and just like connect with. And that's why we're like, oh, well, tell us where you're from, because there might be a kindred spirit in the same state as you or in the same country. And then you guys can like decide if you're going to, speak to each other, give each other your emails or whatever. That gives you another opportunity to kind of connect with kindred spirit. And if you don't have that, then at least, we have free resources and we have, some paid resources. And the paid stuff, like you can book Divine Unisoul's 11 for a reading, because she's also a spiritual life coach. She's connected to Kathy D from Pineapple Fish Life Coaching. Hi, Kathy. Who's amazing as well.
Yes.
And so all these paid options for you are still at a price point that anybody can afford, on purpose, because we're here on purpose for a purpose.
Right.
So that's what you need to do. You need to start thinking of community. You know how you have the community card and there's always three? That's why you only need really two people. It's you in the middle and like your two armor bearers. So what's your armor bearer? Somebody who can hold your arms up in victory when you can't. So that's why you need at least two. And if you don't have those two people, one on each side, then at least connect with us here, because we have so many free things that we do. And the reason it's free is because it's not free. We're putting in our energy. We are meditating. We are studying ahead of time. Even when we do the readings with the cards, we're still meditating. We're still preparing ourselves as vessels in order for the cards to free flow. That's why when we're doing like the readings and stuff, we have so much engagement. People are like, oh my gosh, that was exactly for me. Why? Because we're preparing ourselves to provide for you, sowing into your life, because we believe that you're good ground. And as good ground, we have to prepare ourselves in order to release that into your life.
Yes, and I'm in agreement with what was that? I lost my train of thought. Understand, I guess this is really I watched Steven's Twin Flame All Stars about that. I'm gonna say from two different ways. Before I even did the walk of becoming into this on the other side of doing readers and helping everything. At first I was like, I just keep it 100 and everybody know I do. They're like, okay, well, if God gave you the gift, you should be giving me the ideas and the things for free. That's why I was. That's the mindset I was in. I'll just be honest. Once I got into it and I seen all the energy and the time that you pour in and the ideas that you have, and you're like, oh, let me do this, I want to research this, I want to bring this to them. That takes a lot of time and energy, and it's really, really pretty much an exchange of energy, like we was talking about earlier with the DM, that if I'm pouring into you, I like the same thing, we like the same thing poured into also. Many of them, I listen to Twin Flame All Stars and you as well, they have really said they've quit their 9-to-5 job, and this is really their only source of way of income in which they're getting these things received as far as being supporting themselves in their daily lives. And it's not just like we out here just hustling. That's not the thing of saying we want to take your money. I know you got a lot of people like you get laid up night and what's they call Peter something. They talk about, I got this miracle water, and you buy this miracle water, it's gonna change your life. And you get people skeptical about that. You got people that was like Leo, remember, say, call me now, and that kind of made people skeptical about, like, okay, now why I'm calling you for this. But it's beyond just that. that. It's just really understanding that we truly believe in it. That's why we put up our feedbacks and tell you about things and let you know that, hey, these are actual people just in the same walk as you are that are actually saying, okay, I went to the reading. I got miraculous things that happened. My life has been changed. It has been transformed for me. The Jupiter 1111, myself, Dream Queen, Manifest Beautifully, whoever the other people as well, Divine Pisces 22, doing all the shout outs, all the people I'd watch in a circle. So, I mean, it's like we're putting it out there, but at the same time, we're human, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so when we have that energy exchange, it's like, yes, keep on doing. Rather, it's a comment that's saying, you're doing great. You really did. When I listened to you with your drill sergeant, you made me really feel like I needed to do something. That feeds my spirit to say, okay, now they pour back into me, and now I can pour it back out into you all. So that's just something I just want to kind of let you all kind of think about as far as when we talk about spiritual energy exchange. It's not that we're trying to get the money, but again, it pours in so many different forms when we're talking about money. And I think that's also spilling also into us as far as how we are being abundant. It's also transferring, because if you're holding out on this end, you're stopping really the flow of things, because like with me, when I drive, I don't have a problem with throwing my keys to the valet there. Why? Because I figure now I have friends, besties, they might be watching, because now they tell me, I watch your show. I said, let me kind of watch my mouth, because I be talking about you. But anyway, is she telling my business? So I don't have a problem. I got one bestie. She'll go all the way around the block. I mean, one time I said, I ain't ever doing this with her again. We walked 3 blocks from the place that we had because she refused to pay. And I was like, girl, I got the $20. Like, nah. I said, from now on, we do this. I don't care. Here's the money. She knows this now. She's like, well, I said, I already hit spot hero. I'm not going through this with you. This is out. I'm not doing this no more. Listen here. I don't do the walking thing. I throw the keys to the valet like Charlie Wilson. I don't have a problem. Because why? That's energy exchange. I'm feeding him. He's putting some in his pocket. Rather, he's got kids. He's got family. At least that helps him to be able to pay for his rent or whatever if he want to get lunch. That's where it comes from. It's not the act of, they got my money. That's kind of high. That's high. $20, $35 a parking. It's not about that. It's that energy exchange, because I know if I throw it out there, it's going to come back to me tenfold. And so that's what I just want you to kind of like think in the community. If you don't have, you don't have it. But I don't want to be coming up with no excuses for you either. I'm sorry, the drill sergeant is coming out too. I'm not going to come up with excuses, because some of y'all kind of lazy. You got it, but you just like, I'm just going to hold it. No, go ahead and invest in yourself, because the universe is looking at every action that you do is a way of telling you, as far as the universe saying, okay, they're serious about this. They want to put their $11.11 on this meditation or this workbook that she has, that lets me know she's serious about healing that part of that childhood wound. And so that's why we create those programs. It's not because we like, oh, I need money. It's about that energy exchange to make sure that you're better. And that means I hope you feel that from our heart to your heart, that this is really sincere as far as what we are actually doing in the community. It's not about that. It's about making sure you go to the next level, you transcend, and you become a better person at the end of the day.
And we really need you. That's why we do these things once a month. We try to do these once a month, because we want to be an example to show you, hey, it's okay for you to collaborate with other channels and not be afraid of that, because this is an abundant universe. And so in this abundant universe, there's so many opportunities for you to share your gifts, and that if you're open to it, then you attract and align yourself with another high level soulmate who has complementary gifts, and then when you guys are together, then it's just a beautiful union. And that's one of the things. But that's one of the things too, that when you're wounded, it's hard for you to be open if you've been screwed in relationships. I've been screwed in business relationships. So it can make me like, no, I don't want to work with anybody, because I've trusted, and that was like my sister and or my brother, and like they totally screwed me over, and they dot. But how do I do that? Why? Because again, I had the armor bearers. I had people on each side of me holding my hands up when I was getting shot. You know how this is, shots fired. like in surrender, you have to, that's one of the ways that you can stand as a warrior. You have to build a team. And the thing is the more people you're going to impact, even if you, the first few people that you're going to really impact their lives is only 5 people. You might think it's only 5 people, but those 5 people, you have to understand that your work ripples out, and it ripples out through time. So even if what you're doing is impacting and changing the lives of a handful of people, that those handful of people are then impacting a handful of people. And so you have to be wise, and that whatever you're doing, that you have to build an inner circle team, and that's part of being a warrior. You have to build your own team and make sure that that way when you're in crisis or you feel like you're in crisis, you have people who can hold you up. And then the other thing we wanted to bring up for being a warrior, you know, one of the things is like when you see something, you lock the shields, right? Like if you saw what is that movie? And Gladiator, right?
Okay.
So they're like, lock shields, and everybody starts to lock a shield, right? So what happens? So when the enemy and all these like energies and stuff are shooting, they couldn't get past the shields because everybody was united. And that's the beauty of unity and building this space. I know like Dream Queen Perla, her and I and Apache Wolf, we would have these things, and we would have like these prayer points that we felt like we needed to do for the collective. You guys didn't know we were doing it, but we were feeling like we needed to lock shields ourselves for the community, for the Twin Flame community at large. And so we would get these downloads from source, like this is what's happening to the community, especially those who are checking you guys in, and you need to start, you know, doing some more warfare spiritually for the community. And so what we would do is that we would get that instruction, and then between the 3 of us, we would lock shields and we would go through the prayer watches together. Why? Because we understand the power of unity. And so we would actually go in front of you without you knowing, lock shields, and so when those things are coming, it wasn't penetrating you. It's almost like the CIA, FBI, right? You have no idea how much terrorism is actually stopped. And the reason you don't know is because it never got to you. It never leaked out. It never hit you. And that's what the beauty of community is. So when you're thinking about your gifts, even your practical 3D gifts that you bring to the table, part of standing is, again, what can you do outside of yourself? Because you have to, that's one of the ways that you can keep your heart open and keep yourself in a state of humility, is that, okay, what can I do to lock shields with somebody else in order for my gift and their gifts to come together, or our agreements and unity to come together, so that way we can protect what is being built, or protect or come against those negative energies that are trying to disempower you. So you have to have this, you don't have to pray long or meditate for a long time, but you have to have one of those things where it has to become commonplace for you. Like we have, Ascended Master Yeshua, who moved in power and signs and miracles and wonders, because there's every time there's stories about him. He said, he went off praying as he was accustomed to. So he would go and pray and meditate for hours and hours. That was his seed time. But then his harvest was when he was moving in his purpose. Miracles, signs, and wonders happen. So there is, in order for you to have that kind of life and to stand in power, you're going to have to sow into your life, which means stepping away from everybody and just taking time to pray, to meditate, and that's how you're going to end up having a strong foundation.
Okay, so my what do you call? I was about to say station call letters. That I say I'm a spiritual coach and an educator.
Yes.
So I went on, and I said I was going to do this. If I have time, I think I'm going to do like a free workbook like I usually do about warrior spirit, because I like my research and I like something tangible that they can read. So I looked up what a warrior spirit is, which is very interesting. They say a warrior spirit is a centered consciousness that is open to the world. It is a spirit of honor that does its best to avoid what is bad or hurtful. It intimately knows the benefits of sacrifice and does its best to avoid gossip. I believe that the warrior spirit in us all to to a greater or lesser extent, which is interesting because most of the time when we think of a warrior spirit, we think of a warrior spirit being like rah, like really putting that force behind everything. But this is really saying how in your warrior spirit you can be really gentle to me, and it's the exact opposite. But you're warring against things of understanding, of discernment, and understanding what is good and bad for you, and also things in the world. So I'm of the world, but I'm not in the world. I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. So understanding that. So I thought that was very poignant when I read that. I said, what is a warrior spirit? I mean, let's make sure we're on the same page as far as what it is. And I'm in agreement. It's again like the good book says, when two or three in the agreement, there am I. And the more power, like I told you all before, when you got like the fist, I think about soul food, and you got the fingers. Okay, this don't do anything. I can do this hit all day, but once I do it like this, now this is when the power. When we lock arms together, then we can be able, our fingers together, we can create that big impact towards what's going against us. So I also seen, which was interesting, they was talking about the 8 qualities of a spiritual warrior. Now this is according to Deepak Chopra, I think, his thing, and he stated that some things is that one thing, that in order for you to be a warrior, you have awareness. So how do you practice awareness? Is saying through yoga and like meditation, which we're saying that when you got to practice every day, you have to meditate so you can be vigilant again. So just like we're saying together, you all formed a circle. I don't know why I'm saying witches of Eastwick, but anyway, you formed a circle. Right. I don't know where that came from. Me in the movies. They came together and it caused that for you to stop anything coming towards you. So you're shielding yourself. You don't need all that. You got your mind. So I picked this up. So you don't actually always have to have. It's nice you have other people on the outside, but sometimes you're like, hey, I don't have access to everybody. So you learn how to shield yourself with the 3 things that you have: spirit, soul, and body. Did I say it right? Spirit, mind, body. So those 3 things. I don't know why I get mixed up. I see all different kind of things. But anyway, so you have those 3 things. Shield. They do it. They're shielding all around you, whichever way it is, this and like this around. Okay.
If you notice, like, there's never something for your backside because God's got your back.
Right. That's why I'm like, hold on a second. Beep, beep, beep.
Is this because you don't need anything for your backside. First of all, you're not going that way.
Right.
And second of all, God's got you back.
There you go. I like that. Feel that in. See, that's why you're here. So next thing they said about courage. So a spiritual warrior has courage. And so I'm trying to fit real quick.
So she was talking about that would be like your crown chakra.
Okay.
Right? So then that would be the first place, and courage, that's your solar. That's when you're able to stand up. And so if any of this is hitting where like, oh, I need courage, then that's something that you can work on in the solar, which you can go into like the playlist. You can go into which one of the inner child ones kind of dealt with. What is it? Rejection?
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, rejection.
That's what I picked up.
Or, you can go into the inner child workshop that...
you got judgment and criticism too.
Judgment and criticism too. Yeah. Because a lot of that stuff hits your that center, and it's hard for you to stand as this warrior when you have those things in there that's kind of punching holes. So some days when you're like high vibing, you're with the right crowd, or you had a really great time in meditation, you're like, yeah, I can do it. But in those low moments, it could be because there's holes in that center of wounds that need to be healed in order for you to stand in your courage.
And then I would say also, because I had the self-meditation also on divine-unisouls.co for rejection, and I also have one for self-worth one. That one I've gotten like really a lot of feedback. Yeah. I think that one's $6. I think it's $6 because sales over with.
Yeah, so for $6, which is nothing, right? 6 is the number of love. You can give yourself some self-love in that space. So if you're feeling as though your courage center is depleting, and so maybe that might be a meditation that you need to take hold of for yourself. And in the meantime, we have other stuff for you as well. but it's good for you to invest in yourself. Those meditations that she's created are all powerful. I think I have them almost all.
And I work with them all. I'm not like the person like
we try
you
try
first. And I don't mess with it no more. I didn't create it. No, I deal with it daily, especially the heart-to-heart meditation one. I do that every day, just to check in with myself, not to see what he's doing, but a lot of times it does kind of coincide and align with what he's doing as well. But that's more so myself. Then they talk about courage. So courage is another thing that you have as a trait for spiritual. Being a warrior spirit. They stated that goes back to what you say about the solar plex being able to stand in your power, and by you doing meditation all the time, you are strengthening up that core strength that they're talking about, being able to face danger, fear, pain, and uncertainty. Spiritual warriors press on when confronted with adversity or doubt, and so that means no matter what, you just keep on pressing on. And then while you're doing that, they're saying you kind of pretty much, I add my own thing, that you kind of, through the discomfort or the towers or the aha moments, or you find your courage, that keeps you to kind of build yourself also. Then they say there's discipline. That's pretty much that. You got to do that every day to make sure that the obstacles and the towers too. You're relentless. You say you're cunning, so I'll say not cunning. I like the word wise.
Yeah.
You're gaining wisdom.
I have a friend of mine. She's Scottish. And so, an old friend of mine, and she used to say, about my daughter, that one over there, she's cunning, But to them, it's a compliment, because that means it's like, it's a combination of like wisdom, but it's like street smarts.
Right.
Being able to tell and sense what's happening in the room, and then it's like it's a combination of like high emotional intelligence with street smarts, being able to feel the room and make a decision quickly in order to to have the best outcome.
Okay, I'll upgrade that to this. How about this? It's being able to live between two dimensions or two worlds, the spirit and the physical, because you got to kind of know how to maneuver even in the 3D as far as that. So that's a good way. So I'll go with, put cunning back up on the board. Erase cunning.
People say cunning, it's in it.
Right, it's like I'm trying to get over it. Y'all think like,
that's the thing where like unfortunately there's people who've been cunning in the bad way. Now they've kind of ruined the word.
They have ruined the world. Okay, I like that. Okay, so we put cunning back on the board. We put cunning. See you. I'm gonna put a board up here. Put it back up there. So cunning. So that is, they said, is to be able to be alert, a witness, and understanding of your thoughts, process of metacognition, and allows you to intercept your conditioned behavior so you can course correct towards more conscious choices in thought, word, and deed. So you're talking about also knowing how to kind of maneuver things, but then that's also in your mind, cunning as far as getting control of your mind, like I've been doing my habits of the mind with my morning drive, my series. It's 12 days. It lasts 12 days for you to change that mindset, to understand it, to change your behavior as well. And so that's what they're saying about that being cunning, to understand how you get the thought and you're saying, okay, now is this condition based off of old thoughts, or is this something that's helping me to change in the present into the future? So that's one thing too. And then we have patience. Yeah, okay, right. You would need that too to be a warrior as well. They said the spirit of a warrior doesn't act needy. So I'll flip that around and say you won't be codependent either. As well, you can't do that, because a lot of times the warriors got to make decisions on their own. I mean, although you say shield up together, but at the same time, you a lot of times on this walk, you're doing a lot of battling with yourself. And then also goes out internally as well. So I would say having patience with yourself. Like I said the other day, we're trying to be perfection, like we're saying about starting channels and things like that. So, but be patient with yourself. That goes into that too, because a lot of times we're looking for perfection and how our family had raised us and said a certain way how perfection is supposed to be. And that causes also an issue for us to really power through and become that true warrior in certain things.
So for those things, it would be like the third eye, right? Because the third eye in quantum physics is like it shows us what we see is what we get. And so the more we are nurturing that imagination space, the more that we are aligning ourselves to those opportunities to make those things come to pass. So we need to be cognizant of the things that we're seeing and thinking about and visualizing automatically in our mind's eye, because that's where we're going to continually move toward as our subconscious sees the opportunity to live that out. So that's the thing. It's like if you are not, that's the purpose of training yourself, of meditating properly, of building yourself up alone just with you and source, because there will be times where you're gonna have to do this alone, where you're gonna have to stand in your authority and know who you are, and really again is that advance and hold, right? So you advance. And I was talking about this yesterday because we get those questions of like the codependencies. And Nisi J asked that question in the live yesterday. She's like, "Are you ever gonna get away from the codependency?" And I'm like, "No." I go, "You can." I go, "You can to the point if you're like not, if you're like a personality gift cluster where you're like a people person.
Yeah.
You're good. You have a tendency,
Yeah,
a natural
true.
tendency to go with the flow for the sake of harmony.
Right.
So you might have you'll have to work on yourselves in order to build better boundaries.
Damn that.
But it doesn't mean that you can't. So then like the codependency, right? It's like we don't even realize how codependency is playing out, right? Like I can't move forward or I can't get strength unless I call her, or I'm panicking if I can't get Perla on the phone.
Right.
But sometimes, source will cut off that communication because they know you need to advance and hold. I'm purposely making them unavailable, that they're not even looking on their phones, because you need to live out what you're saying. And what's happening is not a test, because source knows. People say, "Oh, God's testing you." No, he's not. These things come because it's like you're pulling it out, right? Because it's a muscle. So that stress makes you do the muscle. And in that squeezing, what you really believe comes out. What's happening in your subconscious, and it could be like levels, right? You believe, you don't believe, unbelief and belief, unbelief and unbelief. And it's all bubbling out in that stress point, where if you step back, it's like, okay, wait a minute. What have I been practicing in my quiet time? And then those things that you've been practicing in your quiet time, those things you've been practicing in your subconscious, is now going to come into play. So sometimes you're cut off from your armor bearers because you have to be your own. And you have to, in order for you to get to the next stage and to conquer that land and to enter that promised land, the next advancement, the ascension part, however you want to call it, it's all the same. So whatever definition floats your boat. You're going to come to a point where everything's cut off, and then everything that you've been working for is going to be tested for yourself, for your sake. Because that way when you break through, you're able to advance. Now you're going to the next level, and you're going to be able to hold the ground. But the reason that somebody else said, are we ever going to get away from the work? It's always so much work. It's your perception. The reason why there's always work to do is because it's an abundant universe. And so we're created to advance, expand, and hold. So we're advancing, we're expanding the territory of what we're supposed to be managing, and then we're holding it. But you can't hold it if you're not strong enough within yourself. And sometimes those things come with the codependency test, right? Like, are you really going to be dependent on what somebody else says about you? Which voice are you going to believe? Your voice or somebody else's of who they say you are? It's not what you're called, it's what you answer to. Are you going to be answering to what other people say about you? Or are you going to define who you are? And then move in that direction. Another codependency is like, again, not being able to move forward unless you speak to somebody who you trust. At the end of the day, then what happens is that then you make that connection toxic, because now you put that person in a place that they don't belong. Their place in your life is to be a friend or to be a mentor or to kind of like guide you, but not always. They're not there to be your God or to be your source, and like be your magic 8-ball. That's not their place. And so, and when you make the person your magic 8-ball, you are disempowering the gifts that you've been given, and you're dissoldering it. And that's why those codependencies have to die. Like you can have interdependency of because you're sharing your gifts and you're doing things together. But when you are then putting that person in a place where they don't belong, where if you can't move forward unless you hear from them. And that was one of the reasons why I had not brought my gifts back, it took me a long time to come back and to even do a channel, because when my gift started to percolate, there were people that I started getting in my early 20s that they would not make a move unless I said something to them. And I didn't understand like codependency. I didn't have the languaging for it. I just knew it felt yucky. And so I shut down my gifts because I was like, I do not want to deal with that. Like having the pressure of like somebody's asking me. It's one thing if I use my gifts, right? I have wisdom gifts and revelatory gifts. And so I know stuff because that's part of my gifting. So I can give you like some things that I'm getting as strategies because I'm a strategist. But at the end of the day, empowering you enough where you can say, okay, this particular strategy and this piece I'm going to take for myself and run with it. Versus having me on the phone and texting and like in a panic and like, I need you to tell me what to do. No. I don't even do that with my kids. You know, so and those are codependencies that you have to even be careful when you have a coach or a mentor, because a lot of, and we're not like that, but there's a lot of strategists and coaches who they prefer you to be in that fear mode of not being able to trust yourself because it makes them money. And so being careful that even people that you love and you adore and you're like, oh, you know, I always get so much from the sessions from them, that's why we kind of space them out, because we need to give you space to breathe. And if you're not growing, we will cut you off because you're like, no, now you're using me. You're using me. What you're using me is I'm always a life preserver for you. I'm not supposed to be a constant life preserver. I can save it once in a while, but I can't be constantly pulling you out of the pit.
Preach! Preach.
So that's part of being able to stand, is that we're giving you these empowerment tools, whether they're free or paid, because at some point you're gonna get the test and no one's gonna be around. And it's gonna be a sink or swim.
Yeah.
And if you sink, no worries, because you just go back when you do the fool's journey again. You just go backwards and you start again.
Right.
So you'll learn one way or the other. But it's better for you to. That's why you sow first in yourself and you do that personal development and you do what you can. And if you have to get past the lie that I don't have any time, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Because if you can watch 2 hours of tarot. The thing is like when you watch television, it's someone else telling you their vision. When you are, watching things, you're kind of going to this hypnotic state because you want to relax and you kind of like are allowing things to come into your eye gate and your ear gate, and you're just going into this neutral, hypnotic state. That's why people can watch TV for hours. That's why you can watch tarot and stuff for hours, because you're just going into a hypnotic state. But if you're going to go into a hypnotic state, you might as well then watch something that's going to feed your spirit. So if you can't seem to do that on your own, and you might be a people person, and there's some gift personalities that they do better with social energy. So if you are that person that needs social energy in order for you to receive, then that's why you check out lives, but you check out the lives that are just not going to tell you stuff. It doesn't do you any good to watch tarot or any of those kind of things, even oracle readings. Once you get that information, and then what? What are you going to do with it? Do some things on purpose for 10, 20 minutes to catch somebody, get a podcast even, and just put it in your ears and just sit there like this, And if you feel like you're going to fall asleep, then on purpose you take notes, because it'll help to engage your whole body. But those are practical things that you can do to honor yourself, to honor your gifts, to honor your purpose, to honor your walk, and to really do some self-development things for yourself, because you will be tested. Do you really think that the negative energies that exist, and you can't be naive about that either, if there's angels that are for you and are fighting for you, then the opposite has to exist. That's the yin and the yang. Just like there are benevolent beings that are on your side and are helping you out and giving you downloads and sending you number syncs and letting you know you're on the right path, there are things that are trying to stop you, because they know that if they can distract you long enough, then you will open up the door yourself to procrastination and to apathy and be like, and then start living this whole hum life, and in the center you're like, but there's something off because I know there's supposed to be more. But it's because you haven't honored yourself for 20 minutes. You have, you go to work for 10 hours, right? You work for 8 hours, you have an hour for lunch, you might have a half an hour commute there and there, maybe it's 11 even. That's a long day. It's a long day where you can't really do anything for yourself. So in this 11-hour stretch of where you are now putting your life force into someone else's vision, will you at least give yourself 20 minutes a day for your vision? Do it when you first get up, or do it at lunch, or do it when you get home. That has to be a priority, because where your focus goes, your energy goes.
Right.
And yeah, you have a long day, and then if you have kids or dogs or cats or a man or a woman, you have to deal with that when you get home. Your day is longer. So you have to say, I'm going to, on purpose, as part of self-love, and really because I want better for me and mine, and I know who I am, I'm going to have to give this part of myself over this 20 minutes of focus. And I say 20 minutes because scientifically, that's kind of like the sweet spot where people can, no matter, even if they go into, ooh, squirrel, everybody can, that's only me. Everybody can focus for 20 minutes, and that's the sweet spot scientifically, where everybody can kind of just pure focus. And if you can purely focus for 20 minutes on your purpose, and if you give yourself a season, which is 90 days, 90 days is about creating a lifestyle, not a habit, because habits are tricky suckers. They can be easily made and easily broken. So what you want to do is create a lifestyle of change. That's why, like, the Rainmaker is 12 weeks, because it's supposed to be a lifestyle change. So you have your 20 minutes, and that's going to help you to anchor yourself, because at some point during those 90 days, or toward the end of it, or the other side, the test will come, because the powers that be that don't want you to succeed are trying to set you up to see what you're going to do next. Will you release what you've been working on? Are you going to speak death over? Because death and life are in the power of your tongue. Are you speaking and releasing life and love? We're always talking about light and love, but the people are not doing that for themselves. What kind of words are you releasing? How are you nurturing your purpose through the words that you're saying, through your own focus? And maybe you don't do that because you don't believe you matter at the end of the day. Because if you knew all the amazing things that are set up for you to do, and all the incredible people that your life, and because of your example, that you're going to change, it will put you in a place of humility where you're like, don't show me, because I don't feel like I deserve it. And if you get that thought, the next thought, what I want you to say is like, I don't care if I don't deserve it, because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant if you deserve it or not. You've been created for it. And so you can meet that lie of not feeling like you deserve it, because we're told, to agree with your adversary quickly. And that's an adversary thought. So you just say, I may not deserve it, but it's mine anyway. I may not deserve the success I'm getting, but it's mine anyway, and I will honor it. I may not deserve like the opportunities I'm going to be getting because I'm doing this, but I'm going to honor it anyway. So then you're agreeing it, you're stopping it from rooting in yourself. You might agree with it and then say, but means like, whatever I just said doesn't count anymore, because this is the truth. This is what I really mean. So you can say, I might not deserve it, but the truth is that it's mine anyway. And I will protect it to the best of my ability, and I will honor it to the best of my ability.
Just to piggyback on, I'm in agreement with you saying about if they don't get it together, about that codependency thing, that it will eventually, the universe will take away. I've had this conversation with the DM, and I was like, I haven't took it to that point, but I was like, if you don't kind of get it together, that's going to maybe the universe is going to be the next step for that. I can feel that strongly. So it's like kind of work on it and get these answers yourself instead of always looking to me to kind of help you to get that. We're always walking around. I'm taking the course now. They're saying about it. You saying being hypnotized and looking at different programs and letting them program you about their vision instead of your own vision. And that's why we tell you all the time to be very leery of the people that you watch, because again, I say like my nephew, which is really wise beyond his years, they were saying you got to remember when people talking to you that they're coding you or they're pretty much coloring you with the influence of their experiences and what hurts and things that they have in their background. And so a lot of times, although they're thinking they're coming from a place of good, but then sometimes that stuff that hurt and that experience and what they know is being filtered by and colored by that whole thing, their whole ideology about how they see about life. So that's why we tell you all the time, watch it, be very mindful as to does that thing actually resonate with you. We're also walking around at all times in the state of beta or alpha state. So you know the alpha state is when you start becoming like hypnotized and going into that. And so that's why you have to, we're walking around in beta, but then when you start watching programs, you drop down into that alpha state. And so that's another thing that makes you to really become like hypnotized in some ways too. So you got to kind of watch that. You're watching them over and over again. You're programming yourself. You start watching that third party stuff, the karmic situation things, and then it start playing like, yeah, and he probably doing that. I didn't even think about that. That's another thing I could add on there. He's probably doing that with her right now, this situation right now. So you have to keep that also in mind. I think that's about it that I want to chime into. I just got 2 more points, and I thought it was really good that they had brought about the warrior, because it's only 2. They said sweetness, which I thought was very interesting. What they say about the spiritual warrior also possesses sweetness. And they say they understand that how that could be something that you're like, why sweetness? Sweetness might seem like a strange attribute of that spiritual warrior, but something associated with weakness or sentimentality, which is in this context, however, sweetness refers to impeccability in word and action. The spiritual warrior holds yourself to the highest standards, refraining from anything that could be considered potentially cruel or hurtful. So it's really understanding, and down here at the bottom they're talking about a sense of practicing compassion, and that's also goes into your warrior spirit as well. And the last thing is the final quality of a spiritual warrior is to love. The spiritual warrior love is all that is. It is the core of your being. It's the core of all other beings. And removing the veils of love is the spiritual warrior's quest. And that's pretty much what we're talking about as far as us being light workers. You know, my thing, I say it every time, the purpose of being a light worker is that you shine the light within yourself, find the shadows, find the darkness, get that together, and then take those things that you know and turn it out to be able to help to shine the light on other people as well, and so that can help them to be able to shine the light, and then the world becomes much brighter. And that's how we're saying that we are changing the world that way. And then you could do that through your mission and your things, but you know, the main thing is this union with ourselves. So how do we get that? We get that from having that warrior spirit. I've even found myself here lately since the warrior spirit is like, ha, like, okay, say it. And I say, ha, and then I go in there and say what I got to say to the DM, and I'm like at the same time, like, okay, now I'm like, ha, and I can feel the warrior say, stand up, shield up, and say what you got to say to him. I was like, okay, I said X, Y, and Z. And like, okay, yeah, I feel good afterwards. So, you know, in any kind of situation that you have, third party situation, karmic situations, which is person, place, and thing, those things, you'll find yourself leaning on that warrior spirit to go on here and say, rah, let me start that YouTube channel. I can do this. And it empowers you. You know, like you might find yourself actually having to say that, right? Get the warrior stand. Think about it in yoga. You got the warrior thing. I even teach my kids because I do dance class, but I told them they got to do yoga before they can do all that stop, drop, and pop it stuff. Because I like, you got to learn how to center yourself, because you all are all angry and have all this kind of energies that they do, and I'm trying to learn how to do that. So, you know, the warrior pose, you standing there and it has that big focus that you have, and you concentrate, and you pretty much having that balance. Everything is in alignment from your hand to your foot to your legs, and it's all making that one straight divine line to make that warrior pose. And so sometimes you might have to find yourself in that spirit. Or you might have to get up sometimes and just actually do the warrior pose. And make yourself stand in there. So I think you need to bring in some kind of physical element to that too, to kind of make yourself to align in that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, one of the things about sweetness is that you can even do like some physical things, right? You can even take some honey that has the element of sweetness and put it on your mouth and just like you anoint your own mouth with sweetness. So like I will speak words that will bring life and will be sweet to the hearer. Now sometimes in that sweetness is still tough love. Yes. But it's always like the truth delivered out when it's not delivered in love only cuts, it doesn't heal. So even in the element of sweetness, there can be some tough love that will be cutting because it has to cut out the cancer, cut out the tumor, but it's also healing. So it's a way to communicate without eviscerating. So that's why, you know, like, if Divine Universe has to tell her DM and she's like, and then she has to stand. But the intent is sweetness and the intent is good. And he knows her heart and he knows that she's not going to tell him anything that she doesn't perceive as good for him to know. So the delivery can still be in sweetness, even if it's tough, because it's the intent of it. And if you're watching people, you know, sometimes, you know, I watch sometimes mentors and stuff, and they end up calling people idiots or like, you know, they're just really tough. And if you don't do it this way, you don't do it my way. Well, they're in their ego. And so sometimes you have to, even if they're brilliant and they're in the top of their game, because I know I watched this one guy who, he's in the top of his game for wealth management, but he will let you know he's always the top. And I'm like, and I just see so many like wounds in him. Does it mean that and I also know his heart because I've seen, it's funny because when he interacts with me, he immediately comes into like a tender moment. Yeah. So when he's in my presence too, where, you know, he's tough and he's like he sounds very egoic and like I'm the best and people have to, you know, do it this way, you're an idiot if you don't. And then he talks to me and his demeanor instantly changes. All right. And he becomes very sweet. And then he'll tell me something, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay. But he also has, the reason he's really good is because he knows how to read people, and he has high emotional intelligence, and he's highly intuitive. And you're not gonna come in my space and speak to me that way. But everybody else will speak to them like very rough and almost like this is you and this is you, blah, 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 cutting. And sometimes people already know that about him, so they kind of like, oh, I get it, you know. So they'll receive it, and other people they get into their ego,
already in their energy to accept it.
But when he talks to me, he doesn't speak to me that way because that's not my energy space, and I'm not, you know. And the thing is, since I stay soft, but that's kind of my MO anyway. But I can easily go into like, what? What did you say? You know, do I take out my dagger? And there's a thing is like understanding, discerning. There is a time for peace and there's a time for war. So understanding when you try to create peace talks and when you're like, no, this is the truth. This is what's right, and I will stand for this. And if you want to fight about it, I'm in it for the good fight. What's the good fight? The one you win. Right. Because you know that what you're standing for is true. And in the form of sweetness and speaking, a lot of things is like, you know, you do the 3 check, you know, is it true? Not that, is that your perception? Is it actually true? Do you have personal experience with that thing before you even talk about it? You know, is it necessary? If what you're about to say has no, you're not even sure if it's true. You just know that's your perception of it. Is it really necessary for you to say anything? And then the 3rd check, is it kind? You know, and sometimes it doesn't sound kind because tough love sometimes doesn't sound kind, but it would be unkind for you not to say it. So having that checklist of even mentally, like, well, before I go at it, is it really true? Do I have proof of it? You know, what's my proof that thing is true? That I've experienced for myself, not that somebody else is telling me, that I've experienced, is what I'm about to say, necessary. And
yeah, because I got to give him a piece of my mind.
Yes. And it's the kind. And if it doesn't really have an element of those three things, then you need to zip it.
Dang.
Zip it.
Oh wow.
Feminines like to talk a lot. We use more words than male does.
Yeah.
And you need to zip it.
I can send it.
And that's when you go into your masculine energy and be like, no, it's chess, not checkers.
Dissertation.
You have to zip it.
Dang.
Sometimes you all talk too damn much.
That sound like the DM possessed your body when you said that.
I always pull my masculine to his friend. He's like, I talk too much. Like, it's because I like the sound of your voice. So I keep on asking you questions, and you just keep talking.
Talking right.
But I like the sound of his voice, so he comes over and we're talking and he'll text, and I'm like, well, I like watching him in person because I like his micro expressions.
Mm-hmm.
So he was over last night, and I'm like, oh, I like your 3D self, and he's like, yeah, I missed you, even though he just saw me a couple days ago. he's like, yeah, I missed you. But he's feeling sick, so you know how men are when they feeling sick.
Yeah,
I have a cold. He's got a cold, and it's like he's dying.
Dying, right?
Like, oh Lord, really?
Help me!
I know.
I need to be
He's like, oh. I was like, oh, just
come on,
lay with mommy.
Come
Let me stroke your beautiful bald head.
Yeah, there you go. Oh Lord, here we go.
So just, you have to be discerning of it. And for those who have the gifting of being an influencer, it's part of your personality gift cluster. You're more apt to be talking because that's your gift.
Yeah.
But like any other gift, your gift is also your kryptonite. And if you notice, kryptonite only hurts Superman.
Right, don't hurt anybody.
So it doesn't hurt anybody else. His gift becomes his curse. And so that's the other side where you have to be discerning and understand your own giftings and the limitations of the triggers. And once you understand what can trigger you, then you know how to manage it. Mm-hmm. And the more you grow and the more you mature, the less those things would trigger you. It will which means it would have no power over you. But that takes time. But if you're aware of, in your personality gift cluster, that you're more apt to do certain things when you feel pressured, then you can start building strategies of how to manage that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to do some cards now?
Yeah, we can. Let me see if I put it back. I hope they can still hear me. How do I move that back? Let's see. What kind of...
So tap in for a little bit of like...
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
This was helpful. Thank you so much for talking with us in the chat. We love it. And you're talking to each other as well. We invite you, for those who are watching, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and go ahead and chat in the chat.
Mr. We need to work with. Ooh, Diana. Oh, that's a good one. Queen of the wilderness. The language of natural world is a frequency of love. This is my mother tongue. Interesting. Okay, so when I think of that, I think about that card that's in the Romance Angels that talks about you deserve love. And she has this goddess, Diana. That's really, is that the Greek? Roman?
Yeah,
Greek.
It's Greek.
And so her having that target, it's like the target sign, and really aiming for like, ching, that goes back to, again, that warrior pose. Mm-hmm. To go on that, and just really having target as far as where you're going in the natural world. To me, when again I figure how you being able to balance between the two different dimensions, the 3D and the spiritual, how you bringing that together. Your mother tongue to me is saying what is the nature as to where you come from, how you nurture yourself, but then actually like it's a default setting, like you coming back to that same setting as far as when you're doing things and interacting. So even when you're communicating to me with the bridge, the throat chakra, how you're doing it, is always a thought of lack that you always default back to when you think about love, or are you also like figuring out ways to kind of, as a computer programmer, going in there to change that setting as well, because it's, again, mother to me is like really the land where your foundation is as far as when we're talking about love. And that frequency, again, it goes back to, I remember you saying that in a couple of videos about your heart is broadcasting out that certain frequency, and I put that even on my video, and I talked about that. What frequency of love are you talking about? You know, some of us, I think we're working around with that facade, like, you know, I'm a lover of love, and I love, and I'm like Cupid, and everything about me is love. And then when you really listen to you, you're like, you know, you're having issues with love. I can't stand Valentine's Day. I can't stand the candy. I don't like all the flowers. Say, hold on, wait. You're doing conflict. I mean, are you for love? Or are you against love? So it's like the littlest thing. I might be over exaggerating in my statement, but to me, it's like the littlest thing that you're really not. You're doing a conflict there as far as frequency. The way you're speaking it and where you're broadcasting is like two different things, and so that's what I pick up from that card.
So going what she was saying, talking about frequency. So the science behind that, right? In quantum physics, sometimes we are. The quantum physics helps you to understand what we already know spiritually, but now there's science behind it. So that way, when you're working it, you're like, yes, you can use that as an anchor. So in quantum physics, right, you have the wave. Let's say they're called waves, right? So that's the frequency. It's a wave, and now you have a contradictory wave, what she's talking about. So you're like, oh, I'm trying to be high vibe and talk about love, but then what you really feel is down here. So when those things actually meet, what do you have? You have a flat line, because you have just as much umph from underneath that you do on top. And depending, like, when those things meet even within yourself, right, that's coming into union with self, if this is stronger, then it's going to pull this down, and that's what's going to come out of your mouth. That's why you have to, you know, we're supposed to guard our heart with all diligence, because out of it is the issues or the things that flow out of your life. So if you want to really take stock of the frequency that you are releasing, start to think about what you're saying. Start to audit your words. And if, you know, sometimes there's people want to do fasting, and they're like, oh, to be more spiritual, you know, which is the fast that actually breaks the strongholds in your life is the fast of thinking. And when you choose, because that's going to also determine what comes out of your mouth, when you choose that kind of fast, which is harder, because that is a death to your ego, where you can't justify, you have to think about, am I really trying to justify my bad decisions or bad behavior or my decisions based on what my perceptions are? Is this egoic or is this love? Is this protection or not? And when you start, and I dare you, try doing a fast like that for 3 days, you're going to find out all the crap that you're actually thinking. And what's actually in your heart. And so when you have these things that are coming up, it's actually for your benefit. And say, okay, don't beat yourself up for it. Don't go into the exercise of doing that kind of fast is not for the point of condemnation. It's to expose those things that are hidden within you, that then now, since they come into light, now you can do something about it, which means you need to then go into another hypnotic state and start to rewire your brain. That's neuroscience and cognitive behavior. So that's one of the things that I teach in Rainmaker. And if you get Rainmaker, you can get it from Divine Unisouls 11. And when you get it, even through her right now, as long as I have supplies, supply stacks, I have a chakra bracelet that I will send to you for free. You just have to send me the receipt, but it has to be like a recent, like as of like today, or yesterday if you bought it. And then I have a chakra bracelet, and then I do like the energy transportation from Perla on it. And then I have things in there that represent black obsidian and black tourmaline to kind of soak up the negative juju in your energetic field. But I teach cognitive behavior and quantum physics and neuroscience in the Rainmaker in order to rewire your brain. So why are you rewiring your brain? A lot of times, the reason your meditations are not working, the reason your affirmations are not working is because you're not doing it correctly. I actually have a video on my other channel, so I'll put it in, I'll find it, and then I'll put it in my comments below so you guys can take advantage of it. But because you're not rewiring your brain, and your brain is your masculine, it is the subconscious. It is what's actually running it. It's in the Six of Swords, where you have the masculine in the back, and he's getting the directions from the feminine, and he's
the
pushing
DM
it
just
forward.
popped it. He said that's true.
So then the DM is moving it forward, but he's getting the directions from the feminine, and that's your subconscious is your DM, is your inner DM. So you have to tell it what to do. And the way you do that is that you have to rewire your brain, because that becomes your automatic responses. So does it take a long time? No. It actually only takes about 21 days for you to start rewiring things in your brain that are really not to your benefit. So that way your automatic responses are really going to lead you to the path of the things that you want. But again, it's going back to honoring your purpose. Really, how bad do you want what you say that you want? And if you want it that bad, then you would invest in yourself 21 days. And don't take a lot of things. Just take like one thing that you want to change. And that's where you start rewiring. Take it one thing at a time. And then after the 21 days, you nurture it and you move on to another thing. What is it that you want to have automatic responses in? If your automatic response is codependency, then you have to rewire your brain in that area. So that way the power of codependency no longer has power on you. If you have a lack mentality, then you have to get to the root of that. And you can do like the root chakra stuff too, that I have in my playlist. Or, and the Perlas is on there too for the energy transmutation. What it does is it neutralizes that space for you. So then like, okay, that's a root issue. Where is that lie? Because if it's a truth that sets you free, it's a lie that keeps you captive. So there's a lie that's keeping you captive, and then you have to rewire yourself. But then you will have pressure, because the test will come. The test is coming to test what you believe and to show you really where you're at. And it doesn't mean that you don't move forward. You can still move forward, even scared, and be like, you know what? I don't care what I see. I don't care that the 3D has not manifested this yet, but this is what I know is true. Period. I don't care, because I know what I see in quantum physics. The waves have already collapsed, and that's why I can see it physically. But right now, in the grace and perfect ways, what I have said is coming to pass, and it will happen in what we call divine timing. If divine timing pisses you off, because you don't like the phrase, then you can just say, under grace and perfect ways. Yes, I received the grace that in perfect ways this is manifesting. I know that I'm at the right place at the right time, and everything's happened perfectly and beautifully for me. I know that because my intention is good and my intention is to go this way, that even if I misstep, that goodness is going to make sure, like a ping pong. No, go this way. Pop, 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 pop. And so then you might feel like a pop, like, hey, gonna slap in the bottom. You're going the wrong way, But you'll be maneuvered into the place that you want to go, because your intention has been set every single day. We say these words, I set the intention. But you're not setting the intention for yourself to change those things. And in order to change those things, you have to change the frequency. Because you're saying one thing and broadcasting another. And now you're not in union of self. The thing is, you're already in union in certain places. And so you have to say, I'm already in union with self. I know how to do this, because there are certain areas in my life where I'm like, yep, that's it. No one's going to be able to move me from that point, because I know it's true. And that's a good thing. Use that as a catalyst for the other things that you want.
The next thing, okay, you came out on your own. The next thing moving on is, it was something I want to say. In your meditation, just want to add that. You'll find out a lot of times, sometimes your stuff is not working, is because you didn't kind of work it. The brain has a way that you have to kind of trick it. So, it becomes stale. If you keep on doing it, after a while, it becomes numb. It's a better word there, but it becomes stalemate, and you won't have any kind of changes to it. I know with my meditation, I was like, I've been doing this meditation for years. And after a while, my mind was like, I think you're going to have to change your meditation practice, because we're not seeing any type of movement. So a lot of times it becomes immune. There you go. Mm-hmm. Thank you for bringing the word. You become immune to it. So you'll find yourself in your practices. You have to change it up. You can't keep on. And really in this 2020, in this vein of the year, I know people's tired of saying 2020 the vision, but in this year, we're being pushed to try new things out of our comfort zone, not to keep on going to the good old standby of things of which we have relied on before. They're going to find ways, like some pieces you might can keep, like staple pieces, like they say in your wardrobe. You always need a black dress, a black skirt, black pants, staple pieces. But then you got to build on. You got to come out the comfort zone and wearing black all the time. I think about one actress. She only wears Lisa Ray. She only wears white. She don't like any other colors. Everything in her wardrobe is the color white. Period. She said, I just can't stand color. So you got to find ways that you have to add a little accent to it. So now moving on into the things, I asked the cards about how does that affect us in the area of love, as far as our heart of the matters of the heart. They say playfulness. It's interesting as I pull the other cards here, again, how they're stating about this nature. So again, I would say about going out into nature. Another way, physical, I'm trying to bring in there too, because I know I'm trying to make sure we have that balance with the ethereal, and then also with the 3D is understanding that we got to get in touch with nature as well. So like going out in nature, maybe listening to nature sound too, helps us to create that getting in balance with Mother Gaia in the frequency of love as well, and getting in touch with what is our true mother tongue, or the way we're communicating with the things that are in our environment. We have the card playfulness. So playfulness, I know you can't see it, but playfulness is talks about, every time when I see this swing, it's really talking about the real natural flow of the rhythm of within you. So you're talking about that frequency and how the masculine within you and the feminine energy within you is creating that balance, but also creating that forward momentum to going forward and going back and going forward and going back. It also talks about, it said, to recapture romance, allow your inner youthful spirit of fun to shine. What jumped off to me when that card is talking about the inner child again, that youthfulness, getting in touch. Okay, if you're having, that's why I say I dispute what the Twin Flame All-Star said, that I think that's a bunch of malarkey that you're saying about inner child and psychological, and it's not all that. It's just about getting back in touch with the soul. Yes, that is true to a point. However, if you got all this garbage and gunk that's been planted on you from your childhood or your experiences from past relationships and how you view the world, how are you going to be able to get that realignment with your soul if this childhood plays a very major part as far as how you color or how you view the world? I always view it like a coloring book, and you take that one crayon, which is fear, because your mom programmed that into you, and you color everything like, well, wait a second, baby. If you was a child, you're like, okay, you can use blue, black, and red and green and whatever things that you can do in that color book. You're like, no, I just want to color it all with fear. Forget all those other colors. So that makes a big statement there. And so in this card, it's saying in order for you to have that playfulness to me is, in order for you to be able to swing back and forth, you got to become light. You got to become with that air. So air will be like spirit. And sometimes air can also, in other cards I've read done, air means conflict, two minds going against each other. You got to kind of be able to take those energies and be able to kind of flow up, go back and forth, ebb and flow, just like water, to go with the flow. Why you be able to create that flow when we're talking about the areas of love and that frequency of how you letting that love frequency flow out there into the environment? You've got to get that balance between the divine masculine and feminine. And you both got to, in order, if we were both on the swing and she said, I want to go back, and I'm like, I want to go forward, and she's like, I want to go back, I'm say, I want to go forward, we're not going to make it. We're not going to do any kind of swinging. So you've got to, between yourself, become in alignment to have that masculine and that feminine energy saying, okay, we're going to do this together. I might not be in agreement with what you're going, but in order for us to have this flow to go back and forth and this rocking, that's what we have to do. Plus I see the tree there, so again, getting some knowledge about that. I asked for a clarifying card about this love, which is happy. So in our emotions, once we kind of clear up that gunk that I feel like it's saying, it's like spiritual, the residue from past lives, I still say that. And then also what you're saying about the past with your children, being a child and the inner child, you'll be able to become this happy, have something to celebrate, be able to balance and create this new world that you want to come and manifest into your world. And you also have this here, she's standing on top of this lock there. You'll be unable to unlock some things with you, which is going to help you to change that frequency of love, was your actually mother tongue, and then actually the language of the natural world. So to me, when I'm saying I'm going back to this natural world, again, it's not having that conflict again. I'm going back to that thing again. I'm going this way, she going this way. It's like, okay, wait, okay, we're not going to be able to do any kind of swinging like this. So again, naturally, it'll become naturally because you have reprogrammed yourself through the meditations or whatever different things that you have, and through your experiences that would cause you to be able to have that natural flow to go with life in those things. So I'll stop right there and I'll do the next one. So did you want to?
Yeah, when she was talking, what was coming to me was really, what is your nature?
Mm-hmm.
And your nature is what, some of it was, we're wired for success, but we're programmed for failure. So we have our nature that was given to us by source, and then we have our part of our nature that was superimposed in us before we're 8 years old, because we were in this high frequency theta state of being hypnotized. And then once you become 8, it changes. But in that state, that's why children are very naive, and they just kind of believe whatever you tell them, and they're receiving all this information. And so because of that nature, going back to really understanding what is your specific nature, what were you really designed to be, how are you really wired to work and to make the most out of your wiring, and whatever you've been programmed with, you can be deprogrammed. So the difference between being wired, because that's supposed to be your divine nature, and then the programming that came in, and sometimes it superimposes the wiring. But the wiring is the wiring, so that's not going to change, but the programs can. And so saying, okay, what is my natural nature? What is my natural inclination for these things? And saying, okay, this is when I think about my DM. What's your automatic response? When I think about my kid, when I think about my money, when I think about my job, when I think about my boss, what's my automatic response? And that's going to go back to what your nature toward that is, and that can change because that's programmable. And so you just have to program yourself in the way that you want to. We're supercomputers. So we've been given the authority. There's a scripture that says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? So when your inner masculine and your inner feminine are not in agreement, you're going to have conflict, because your subconscious and your conscious state are not in agreement. And until they come into union with self in that thing, you're always going to feel like you're going 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because there's this push and pull until the marriage happens in that particular train of thought or your natural inclination toward that thing. So that's why it's really important to have this playfulness, because we're told, to come, to God as a child, not to be childish, but to be a child. And what do children do? They're very open. They trust. They love. They don't see color. You see all these things that when people talk about racism, and you see like the little black, the black children, the white children, they're hugging on each other. I think one of my favorite was they had a twins day or something at school. I forgot what it was. Yeah, but there was like a little white boy and a little black boy, and they came dressed the same. And their intention was to fool their teachers because they were dressed the same. Like they didn't realize you look nothing alike. But they're like, we came to fool our teachers, that we're going to be switching who we are. But they had the exact same clothes because they're like, oh, we're twins. They're like, no, you have different sets of parents all together, and you're not even the same race. Well,
they might actually be twins.
They might be twins, right? Other kinds of twins.
You're right.
And that's the thing, is like that playfulness, that openness. They are very big on love, and some children, are naturally wired to be more protective because that's part of their gift cluster, where they're more critical thinkers or they like to be by themselves. I remember my daughter, she's always been like that since she was little. Like she was more like, even as a baby, was just like stranger danger. But that's because because of what she's made to do, she's got already that wiring in her. But even then, like if she knew you, then she goes into the playful state, right? When there's trust there. And so children tend to be very trusting, and it doesn't mean that you're naive in your playfulness or your childlike self. But that's when the children are very joyful, when they're high vibe, when they feel like anything is possible. I can dream it. If I can dream it, I can be it. And that is going to help you in the rewiring, because you have to be able to see it. If you can't see it, you're not going to have it. You have to be able to see it with crystal clarity. And whatever you can see clearly, then you're going to be able to feel the ping inside your body. Like, yes, that's mine. It is working. And then what was the last one? Oh, that was the happy, right? So that's the joy factor. Joy is not happiness. Happiness is an emotion and it's fleeting, right? So right now, I'm happy because I'm with my girl, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm happy. But then if I'm not in her presence, I still have to stay in joy. And joy is like, even in the midst of a storm, going back to what we were saying earlier of what's happening, what have you been doing in your meditative practices and your prayers and really building yourself up, that you can still count it all joy even in the storm, because you know this too shall pass. You know that you're not alone. You know that you're loved, and you know that you have connections in the 3D, and you also have connections in the 5D. So you can count it all joy, knowing that everything will turn on a dime for you, and it's just really a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. Joy is a higher frequency than love because it's based on love, and that's when you're like you can be in joy and not feel happy, because happy kind of like it's an emotional. It builds your body up, and you're like it's adrenaline. It's like a juicy adrenaline in you. But joy will keep you there, like, it doesn't matter. And joy will activate gratitude. Like, it doesn't matter what it looks like, because I can still be grateful. I still have all these other things that I'm grateful for, and that'll keep you in, and that's what children do, right? They're kind of like, they can be grateful for things, you know.
Yeah, and I forgot about the face when you were talking about that, just understanding that it's destined for you, for things to come together as far as the mother tongue. I seen it's about the natural world. So right now, with you creating this love thing and this frequency, you're lining up some things too, as far as your nature, who you are, who you be naturally, and the spirits are helping you to kind of align those things, although you really feel blinded. So you're doing all these things like by blind faith. You don't really actually know what's going on, but you are putting these things together, and it's fated for you to have this. It's in you. Your DNA is part of you to express love, to be loved. That's who you are. So I forgot about that card, but then it brought to me. It's like, yeah, and that's interesting how I got it lined up right underneath it too. The next one, and especially in your emotions, because that's a feminine there. That energy is there, so it brings it all together. Next thing, the thing that we need to surrender is to surrender to the beauty of the natural world. Again, who are you? Surrender yourself to who you actually are, and be comfortable with the skin that you're actually in. Take a relaxing break and spend time in nature. Replenish yourself by feeling the beauty and the ecstasy there. So again, take some breaks. If that's meditation, or treat yourself sometimes. Do some me time, some self-care. Do that. Spend time out in nature, like I said as well. That's another thing that's going to help to bring that beauty within you, and that understanding of who you actually are. You know, let the trees talk to you, the water, the breeze, everything. That would also come. And then we also have like the things, what things do you need to change in order to have this warrior spirit of Diana come in, and this understanding of this frequency of love, and understanding that you deserve love. You have to believe, they say the life change that you have to have is understanding that you are stronger than you know. This is right here. I see here with this beautiful upper heart chakra being represented here is very bright and vibrant, which lets us know that you're working into that energy of being very passionate as far as who are knowing that you are stronger than what you are. And then I see the orange here represented, the green, everything right there is really on point as far as that. And we just have to make sure we hold, and so we can be able to ascend to the next level of having that. This memories here now. This one is drawing my attention, because we're talking about the memories. So to me, I'm bringing up several things like the nature of who you actually are, but kind of looking at it as far as, you know, are you letting the past color who you are in the present? And it's stopping you from really truly expressing the nature of who you are and this frequency, because again, I'm picturing like some, and I put myself in there too, you know, no matter what, I could practice all these things, meditation, look at videos, X, Y, and Z, but it's still something about that is filtrating that old, like a computer. Like I got Dad's computers, I got to kind of get rid of stuff that he's got on there and like go back to factory settings. But you know, it's still filtrating. It's like I get rid of this program, but this one is still on here, and I thought I got rid of this off his computer. So what's going on here? So it's like these default settings that you thought you got rid of, but it comes up and it pops in and say, "I'm still here.
I'm still here.
I'm still here." Like poltergeist. Yeah. We're here now. So I thought I got rid of it. I thought we did an exorcist. We did sage the house, and then the entity is like, "I'm still here." So it has not gone away at all. So again, this here, they got the yellow here is represented with your solar plex. So again, you being able to stand in your power. That's going to be really poignant in understanding that and having passion about it. It's like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Again, that goes back to that the warrior pose again. That passion is going to help drive you to say, okay, let's propel you into what you're actually standing in as well. And so we got to get rid of the things of the past, because the past does not work for where we're going now. It's just like adding baggage. I think of and then bringing it to me, like I had did one time when I was driving, and I said that's like me trying to drive forward, but at the same time I'm looking in the rear view mirror and I'm seeing, but I'm looking back at the same time. I'm not going to get that forward movement, and they keep on bringing that with the swing. It's still some of us are having that we're trying to do, but we're driving with the brakes on. And we're not going forward at all. So these memories are holding us back, and we got to kind of cut that as well. So that's something that we have to do. So I'm gonna start right there because I think that's a lot of food for thought, and I'll leave him for last.
Yeah, I want to work backwards because the memories that she was talking about, it's sometimes the reason it has such a hold on us is because we don't have a clear vision for the future. Our own internal vision is not clear, and so that's why we can't move in passion. So sometimes we think it's a sacral issue where that's where your passion center is, but the reason that's not working is because you're not clear up here. And until you're clear up here and in here, because your heart is the manufacturing center, it's the interface between your soul and your spirit, and that's where it starts to create things, and then it pushes things into the different chakras. So if you're not clear here, and it's not, you can't see it here, you can't have passion down here. You're not going to always be like, yeah, every day, but your vision, if it's clear enough, is going to pull you into action. So that'll activate your solar, because your vision will pull you. But if you don't have a vision for your life, then you're always going to feel like it's whole hum, like it's mediocre. And the other reason, when she was talking about like the meditations and everything, a lot of times people do that, but it's very surface level. Yeah. They're just kind of doing it, going back to what she said earlier, was you're going through the motions because that's what you're used to, but that no longer has power, because that tool, not that tool is not a good tool, but that tool has already served its purposes for you for that timeline, and now you haven't moved into the new timeline to do the new things that will refresh you, that will give you the other things that you want. So being able to discern what tools to use, right? Because you can, if you're going to be battering, doing a cake mix, right? You can either do it by hand, and that's one tool, or you can stick it in the automatic thing, and then the electric one does it for you. Some people will prefer a mixer, but some old school people are like, no, I'm whipping it because the power of my hand is gonna create a different kind of cream and texture than having the machine that can do it for me. And sometimes you guys are so wanting the machine to do it for you, the mixer, instead of you really doing the work and whipping it up yourself. So you have to be able to discern which season you're in and what tool to use, because are they both great tools? Yes. And they both going to give you a different outcome. But if you want the outcome of the hand whip, because the texture, it takes longer, but the texture is better, it's more puffier, it tastes better, then you're going to have to just do the work yourself and not always count on that electric mixer, that other thing to do the work for you, where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to put on the meditation tape. That helps. I mean, my subliminals, Divine Pisces 222 said that she listens to my subliminals for the chakras all the time. And they really do great work for her. Now, at some point, but she's also doing other things, which is why it works. So it'll work when you get it, because that's the intention, and you'll receive what you're supposed to receive. But that at some point, you're going to have to go from the mixer, because that's like a hand mixer, to doing some things yourself, which means you're going to have to, as you're listening to it, go into active imagination and creation in that space to allow that chakra to work properly.
Oh, can I give a quick testimony about your subliminals? I've gotten to the point that I said, but I'm a music-y, like a foodie, but a music person. Anyway, and so I've gotten to the point that I play it automatically so much that automatically my body will go ahead and I can hear the song. And it lets me know that, okay, that means I need to open up my roots. So I'll hear that meditation play without me having the headphones or anything. Automatically, it goes right into that. Or I hear the heart one. I say, oh, okay, that means you need to open up your heart. So it's just automatically, if you do it often like I do in this program, like the spirit already takes over. And it'll play those tapes of liminals on its own. So I was like, I have to share that with you, that you get to the point you don't need to actually have the physical thing, that it just plays it on your own, and your body will let you know, okay, you need to work with this chakra, you need to work with this one, and it plays the music on its own.
Yeah, and that's like the natural. That's great. So I'm looking at the time because I want to clip that out and use it as a testimony.
Okay.
But that's the purpose, right? When you have a tool, then like following your ping, like, okay, then she can hear it. Then what was the purpose of her hearing it? The purpose of her hearing it was to let her know there's something there that you need to work on. Versus, oh, that's just nice.
No, right.
Right? It's like, okay, we're giving you tools, and then what? So you need to be able to, have your vision and make it clear. And then Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it clear so that those who see it can run with it. That includes you. Can you write your vision so clear in one sentence or two that when you see it, if it can't fit in a little card or on a post-it, that means your vision is not clear enough. You should be able to articulate your vision to a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, and they should be able to get it. And if you're not that clear, have that kind of deep understanding to what you're supposed to be doing, then you're not clear enough. It's, I remember Einstein now coming to my brain says, if you can't explain it simply, that means you don't understand it well enough. You need to be able to understand your own purpose, and you don't have to have all the steps. Maybe you just have a vague, it's just vague to you right now. But it can be like, I know I'm designed for this, and my purposes and my plans right now is to be able to use my gift cluster. What do you want people to feel when they're doing business with you, when they're communicating with you, they're interacting with you? How do you want them to walk away from you? And those are the questions. Just starting there, saying, my intention is that when people are working with me, that they feel empowered, and they walk away like they better than before they encountered me. And even in that, and just being real, like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What are the micro expressions on their face? Are they smiling? Are they crying because they're releasing? Maybe like Kathy D, who works really with a lot of people who have trauma, then her version would be like, people might be crying, but because they're crying, they're purging the darkness out of them and those wounds out of them, and they just have, after that interaction with her, peace. And so she's like, yes. I'm a peacemaker. I get, through my work, people receive the peace that they're craving. And what a beautiful way to live your life, that you're created to be a peacemaker. And you're not a peacemaker between people, but in the voices within self.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful gift that she's able to bring, because she really works with a lot of people who have trauma. So then if you have trauma within and you encounter Kathy D and you have a session with her, then her purpose is for you to walk away with a higher level of peace that you have not had before.
Yes.
So just like that, right? So it becomes very clear and very easy to explain, like, oh, I'm a peacemaker. I help people come into peace with themselves, and release the trauma that's holding them back. And then almost everybody can be like, hands up, I have some, fix me. Right? Or like,
run, don't walk.
Yeah, or like
to life coach.
Yeah, or Laudy at Manifest Beautifully, she's an intuitive, so a lot of her people are crying too, but what they're seeing, that their breakthrough is coming, is getting clarity about their mission. So if you're not clear then you can you might have trauma, you go to Kathy D. If you want clarity about your mission, you can go to Loudy and Manifest Beautifully. And then she can say something as clear as I help, I help people rocket ship into their future, I don't know, or make their path straight. I help them make their path straight because everything's crooked and they can't see right now. But encountering her in an executive coaching session helps those crooked places become straight. So now they know, they're very clear about their path. So she could be saying I help the blind see. Blind, that's her thing. She helps the blind to see their own path and give them clarity. That's beautiful. And that's something that's simple and is very, very clear and has been happening over and over and over again. So can you explain it that even in analogies, right? You can use, like I say, I'm a personal GPS for success. Well, you can understand that, right? Because what does GPS do? They tell you which way to go, and then if they're telling you it's too much traffic, or they might take you that seems like a long way, it's a detour, but it's actually going to get you there faster than you going a regular way. Or if you make a wrong turn, I'll tell you to make the U-turn. So I'm like your GPS for success, right? And then what would you say is like your niche?
Because somebody told me I was a drill sergeant on your thing. I'm like, excuse me. That's what it was. Okay, thank you. I was a drill sergeant. Yeah, well, that's too bad. Yeah.
So what do you experience? What's like the one thing that your clients are saying when they encounter you?
I call my catchphrase is I give you the keys, keep energizing yourself into union. So I call myself through even my laughter and jokes and stuff. I keep you empowered to say, keep on going. Mm-hmm. So I'm like a motivator to do that, to help you. And so I would say in education, because I want to educate you to be able to pick better choices. And I'm trying to think like Einstein. So I feel like I got it like all over, but I really think that I'm just really a coach. I'm just like a motivator. That's pretty much it.
You're empowering people to not only you don't only inspire them to be the best versions of themselves, but you continually keep them motivated to move forward.
There you go. That's why you my manager. I don't know why you even asked me. You already know the answer. You know that already.
And so that's her thing. That's her gift, right? So then what's your gift? And you can, if you're watching this in replay, if you're still here in replay, or you're thinking about it, you're here live, and you may not know, just come back and put it in the comments. Like, these are the things. Think about what people say about you a lot, and what's the common theme. And then we can help you craft the language around that. And I can help you craft the language around it if you put it in the comments, because then people can see the examples of how to craft it, because you need to be able to, again, write the vision, make it plain so you can run with it. Not only other people, but you need to be able to run with it too, so you can run with it, so you can move it already.
Right. Move that bus, like they used to do on Home Improvement show. Move that bus. All right. Okay, so I got it all in, so that's the wrap up thing, and I got to see Carpe Diem seize the day. So the next thing in which in our shadows that we got to work with in order for us to have this warrior spirit of understanding who we are naturally, resonating in the frequency of love, in which in seeing how we are either spreading that out into our environment and choosing the way in which we communicate that in the world, is it says obsession. We got to work with that. So something we're obsessed with that's not allowing us to see anything else, and it's really making that crown chakra to be very overactive. When I see all that extra growth there that's going on, we got some issues as far as it really getting that download and really telling us where we actually need to do. So we're zest. So we got to move that thing, whatever it is that's blocking us from really being able to shine the light to see that. According to our divinity cards here, we have inner child. That's popping up there. The inner child issues that's popping up. Okay, the sidebar. Anyway, so that is causing even for the DM within on the outside. So when I see this card, it always represents about also the 3D. How's that affecting the relationship that you have with your divine counterpart on the outside? It's affecting that as far as the frequency of love of which you are broadcasting. So again, maybe you're broadcasting in the 3D, like I do my thing, you do your thing, we don't come meet in the middle, like my dad said that one time. We just see each other in the street, we don't say anything. Long story how that came about, but that's the one thing, you do that. And then also, but at the same time, the inner child within is like, but no, I need you, don't separate. We're supposed to be together. I know where we're supposed to actually end up with. So that's another issue as far as that conflict. That's, again, when I see these two things opposing, that lets me know we're going in two different directions, even if it's emotionally or it's the way we're thinking. Then we have also in our divinity, we need to work on unconditional love. I look at this again. You see the mother and the younger mother there. You got the twins there. So again, how is it in the past is how you have been raised, parental wise, as far as how that's coloring your, going back to the memories, as far as that coloring you in the present. How you're nurturing yourself too emotionally as well. So to me, it's two ways you can look at that. I'm getting a fork in the road, which means in the present and in the past, in the future. The present and the future. How's that affecting as far as what you're nurturing, this new creation or this new beginning that you have there as well. That's the way how you're learning how to be able to nurture, how you're able to practice unconditional love. Where are you getting that practice? Where's the template that you got it from? Did you get it from your mother? Did you get it from anybody that raised you? That's also coloring this for your love frequency and speaking the natural tongue or the natural way of who you are. And that's kind of being a conflict. So you got to kind of work with that energy as well. You have here as far as what's the purpose of all this energies here. So the purpose of all these things that you have here that we talked about there is to help you understand that you're on the right path. Keep doing what you're doing because it's working. So again, I know we've kind of inundated it and kept on making you feel like, okay, well, you're not, everybody's saying, well, you got to still keep doing the work. You still got to do this, X, Y, and Z. Really, actually, if you want to be better with yourself, or become a better version of yourself. Regardless, you're going to be constantly working, period. Just like artists, it's always coming up with a new masterpiece, a new piece of artwork as well. So you're constantly doing that. So stop looking at it as if it's like a tired, like a 9-to-5 job, but look at like, okay, well, anytime I correct myself, guess what? I'm doing the work. Anytime I just redirect myself to think a different way, guess what? You're doing the work. So it's not really all that hard. And it goes back to, again, they showing about the purpose of that to help you to understand there's options. Instead of you, while you're doing the work, like I told you, okay, let me think of a different way that I can actually show love or do a different way of doing frequency. Understand there's different ways out there. Don't get to this mindset of whatever your mom told you how to love or how these experiences that you have with other people in relationships tell you what way the path of love is. Be open and receptive to say, okay, that worked then, or like your meditation, that worked then, but guess what? It's not working now. And I've even done meditation. Now I find myself circle right back around and say, you know what, let me go pick up that old meditation because that did kind of work for that. So you'll find yourself being open. It's okay to, for now, I'm going to put it to the side. I don't need it anymore. But you might find yourself saying, okay, now I think I'll bring that practice back in, or those options or ways of thinking. Also, we have here, this is your love thing. So the whispers of love was saying to you, consider your foundation. That's what I'm talking about. Your practice. Who set that in as far as you trying to get your natural world, or who the nature of who you are as far as the frequency as well. So, you got to get that foundation together. So you might find yourself saying, hey, all this stuff, bye. Let's start the drawing board all over again, and let's start with a clean state and start rebuilding ourselves again. And it's okay, because again, like I tell you all, we're not looking for perfection. That's another thing that's stalemating us from not us being able to progress and to move forward. So consider, what are you committed to, they said as well. So as far as when you're talking about love, you are being asked to look at how committed you are to love. That's another way. That's a fork in the road. So you're looking at how committed are you. Again, I said that at the beginning. Some of us are saying we're team love. I got the shirt love. But then when I talk to you, you're saying everything opposite than saying that you with love. So my thing is, you've got to watch what you're broadcasting. Your physical, you're saying in one way, in the spiritual, but you know what? Everything, it doesn't lie. And like I said, even in litmus test, when you're talking to your friend or you're talking to your DM or even with your family, they'll let you know, you're not really expressing love. You think you are, but we're going to tell you that you're not. and they'll make sure that they understand that, kind of like pinpoint you and say, okay, you still got to work on this, you still got to work on this, and you still got to work on this and this and this, okay? And then the last thing here we have here from the universe, notes from the universe and the love connection, is you have what it takes. So always follow your heart. Unless it's been broken, then you must lead it back into love, the universe. P.S. Did you know that hearts are never too big to mend, too small to rebound, or too tired to love again? So that goes back to what my nephew's saying about the relationships and the experiences that you have. Either if it's from childhood or even through growing up as an adult, teenager, whatever like that, the experiences that you have in relating with other people as friendships or as a love base, you have to remember that, you have to reset yourself again. That's why I talk about clearing off and starting back over again, starting with a clean slate as well. And then be prepared to be astounded. So send them love, wish them peace, see them happy, everyone always forever, and prepare to be astonished, the universe. P.S. Oh man, and will you ever become a big time manifester? So it's saying by the time when you work with all these energies and get yourself aligned straight and right, you're going to be astounded at how love comes rushing in. I see just like a water coming in, like shh, those things coming to you. You'll be surprised how they'll come to you. I'll say that for last. So you go on. I know I did a thing, but that's it.
The main thing that I was looking at in the obsession card, it looks like there's a crown of thorns on her head. And a crown of thorns has to do with lack. It's the poverty mentality. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of you maybe, you're like, well, I'm not thinking like a poverty mentality about money, but it could be, it's just the form of lack. Mm-hmm. Obsessing about what you don't have yet. Obsessing about, what's not manifested yet. It's the yet. And sometimes we get stuck on the yet. Yeah. So that's the thing that you need to release during this cycle. And then the number there is 3. It's about inner alignment, the spirit, the soul, and the body. And because that's not, there's another 3 there. So 33 together is mastery. Is mastery. So in order for you to have mastery, you're going to have to deal with the obsession over what you do not have yet manifested in your 3D hand, only because you don't see how the seed is breaking apart that you've planted, and it's growing, and it's because it's still underground, which means it's still like coming through from the 5D into the 3D, that you're not seeing the fruit of it, or what's coming through right now is so little that you're not understanding like what's really at the bottom of it, that there's roots that have to be built, so that way when the fruit comes up, you have seasons of it, versus a fruit that just comes up overnight or easily. It doesn't have a deep fruit, and then you're going to have to continually, nurture it to get anything out of it. So there are some things that you're working on that you're obsessing over that you haven't seen the fullness of the fruit of it, because you don't understand that the root is being done properly in order for you to have generational fruit from what you're doing. And that's why the mastery is going back to the inner child, of going back into your playfulness, staying in that openness, knowing that it's going to come. That if Source Gate told you it's going back, right? Like when you're a little kid and your parent told you something, and when you were really young, you're like, okay, if they said it, they're going to do it. Okay, and I believe it. And that's your choice to believe. So that you have to come back. In order for you to have mastery, you need to release the looking at the 3D for the lack, and understanding that it's already yours. And the way you do that is to go back into your inner child, or go back into the childlike space, and just do the freedom there. And that leads to the unconditional love, because then you're having unconditional love for self. And when you have unconditional love for self, then you can properly love others. But as long as you are feeding the it glitched. As long as you are feeding that particular thing, and you're feeding the energy incorrectly, you're going to continue to have that experience. And then you're like, why am I going? It feels like I'm going in circles. Because you have to make the decision of, I'm not going in circles. Is this a circle or a cycle? Cycles, it feels like a circle, but the timeline is shorter. And if it's a cycle, that means the cycle is going to push me into another level. If you're going in circles where nothing is changing, then you have to go inside and figure out what that is. And it could be just that you're not really having unconditional love, and that's why you're obsessing over what you don't have. Because when what you don't have means that then you've taken your eyes off of grace, you've taken your eyes off of possibilities, you've taken your eyes off of your own future, and you're taking your eyes off of gratitude. Because once you shift into those energies and into that empowerment, then the obsessive behavior diminishes and it gets disempowered. It may not happen overnight, but the hold on you will lessen as you focus on the right things.
Yeah, and so that goes back to the you're on the
right
right path and
yes.
understanding you have options and just focus on that one thing as well. And that's why you say it goes back to you got to consider your foundation. Where are we on that one? Okay, this one. Oh, this brand new. Oh yeah. Copy DM. Pop open here. Okay, here we go. Be grateful every day for the brief but magnificent opportunity that life provides. Carl Sagan. Okay.
Gratitude. It really just comes back to gratitude. And that's going to help shift you out of any energy. Because even when you're really depression, when you're feeling depressed, while that can come from an external source, it could be as simple as things that you're eating. That's not allowing you to have the right chemicals in your body. And some people have, because they're created and they have already that chemical imbalance, so they may have to take medicines and things like that to balance you out. But what creates the opposite chemical in your system is gratitude. And so even if in your darkest states, and I know because I tried to kill myself 4 times, is that I took my eyes off of what I had, and I took even my eyes off of my children, because I, in my ego, figured that it was better for me not to be around. It was better for everybody if I wasn't around, which wasn't true. So once I had like those supernatural experiences of stopping me in the middle of trying to kill myself, then I was able to, and I was shown the hearts of the people that will be affected if I did that, of people I knew. I had my children, my parents, my sister. And in the last times, like, they would never recover if you do this. And then me saying, oh my God, I'm being selfish. I'm thinking in my ego that it's better off if I'm not here. And then seeing their pain and then realizing I'm grateful for them. I love them. And I do not want to devastate their life forever because of me doing this selfish act, because I figured it's better and it's not. I've convinced myself of a lie. And so once that lie was exposed, it had no hold over me. So then now if I can feel my spirit going into that place, I know how to shift it out of there. But I had to go through those experiences to say, I know what it feels like and I know how to shift it out. And thank God that I was supernaturally stopped. But I live my life, trying to live my life in gratitude. And that's, and that's going to keep you happy and healthy and glowy.
Yeah, and the gratitude also magnifies and intensifies and brings more manifests towards you too. That's why it's it's good that you can do like a gratitude journal, because that helps you a lot of times to just kind of be intentional and impactful as far as what you're doing in your practice and to remind you. I like that. And even I don't have a gratitude, but I know every day I do that. What's that thing that they have on my thing? It's like, hold on a second. I do that practice. It's a thing I see all the time. But I had that. I should know about it every day, but I don't. They said, did you know you can rewire your brain to be happy by simply recalling 3 things you're grateful for every day for 21 days? And so that's important for you to do that, especially when you're trying to do this frequency of love and how everything aligns with each other, because you're trying to change not only just your brain, but how you're having things manifest in your world and in your environment. So through gratitude, that shifts things a lot, and you bring more into you, and the universe is like, okay, you bought that, okay, there, you're grateful for that little thing, I thank you for my McDonald's or my Starbucks, my chai latte, she's happy for that, let's give her with that. And then I say something else, and then it's like, let's give her that. And let's give it this. And it multiplies each time. Because, like, just the littlest thing. Oh, child, please. We can come up, Pastor B said, we can come up with some more for you. If you're grateful for just the littlest things, get out of here. Let's just bless her.
And for those of you who might be thinking, I don't know if that's true or I don't see it in my life, just remember that misery loves company. And when you see that misery loving company and that company and they're together and they're and that gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and the next time you see them talk, they have even more to bitch about.
Right.
That's how you know it works, because the opposite works. Because the misery is loving company, and so they're getting together to talk crap. Right. And so the next time they talk even more crap, and they feel good about it, but then they're like always miserable. But then the opposite is also true. It just depends on what you want to feed. So you can feed the misery or you can feed the gratitude. Right. And it's completely up to you. And just like we see that when misery loves company, how they have even more to be miserable about, then the opposite is true for you as well. So that's what you have to remember. That even though you don't see it yet, it's multiplying. It's a multiplication factor. And whenever you go back and you're not sure if it's happening, actually think about the opposite, because that you have a lot of evidence of. Right. And a lot of evidence of the opposite is like, well, if that can happen over here, I know about balance, and I know about the yin and yang, right? And I know about the light and dark. If it's happening in this, it's also the opportunity and the possibility to happen here. And so that the opposite energy can actually help you be crystal clear, like, wait a minute. I've seen that in action. Now I'm going to flip it for my favor. Right. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
We love you so very much. Don't forget that we're going to be together live. So if you want to see us live, come to Chicago on 4/11. We're having a 4/11 event.
Yes.
While all our VIP tickets have been sold out, we still have a handful of tickets for the general admission. You're going to be receiving not only it's a full day event, you're also going to be receiving a $97 boot camp that's going to be online, so you don't have to be present in May. You're also going to receive another $97 e-course called Producing Your Products. So for those who want to kind of like take off and produce their products or do their services or create a business, it kind of gives you business plans and things like that. You're also going to be getting coupons and other freebie stuff during that for that event. So there's going to be like hundreds of dollars in your goodie bag.
Yes.
Yes. And then you get to see us and hang out with us.
Yes.
And also Manifest Beautifully and Perla from Dream Queen. So if you love all the chakra stuff, the training, the education, the fellowship, then this is something that you really need to invest for yourself. Also, while supplies last, if you're going to be buying a ticket, you'll also get the chakra bracelet. I forgot to bring her mine, so I gave her mine.
Don't hate, appreciate. No,
so you also get while supplies last, I'll also send you one of those. And for those who already got that, I already have something special planned for all those who are going to be there. You're going to also get a piece of jewelry. I'll figure it out. A piece of jewelry that you can have as well for those coming in for the event. So it's hundreds of dollars in your goodie bag. Plus, you get to hang out with us all day long. It's from 9 to 5 in Chicago. So go ahead and invest in yourself. Just go ahead and do it, Don't think about how the money's going to come. Just buy the ticket and everything. That's how I always do stuff. I always buy the ticket and everything else.
That's right. That's what I do too. I don't want, we just go backwards planning. Let the universe do it. Let the universe
work all the details out of
Yes. CP in Texas says she's going to be in house.
Yes, and her daughter.
Yes,
and her daughter. So we can't wait to spend time with you, CP in Texas.
Yes.
And everybody else who's already bought tickets. We're looking forward to just loving on you in person. This is fun. Maybe we get to interact, but there's nothing like having some 3D.
Oh God!
And we're going to be doing some major energetic things for you guys and the collective. Having all those beautiful people in one space. It's going to be a wonderful time. So don't forget to go ahead. Go to risewithjupiter.com, and then you'll be able to see everything. Now you can just go to shop and then events. And go ahead and get your ticket. Yeah. All right, my loves. Until next time, which will be very, very soon. Bye now.
Just on my channel, just don't forget about the child playground experience too. I've seen a lot of those things that came out that was stating about childhood, make sure that you get the program, and if you're interested in getting you some type of support from someone else instead of you trying to come up with the solutions yourself, that's a good thing for you to do. You got your Kathy D doing counseling on there, and then you have me doing your guidance coaching on there, and then you have April Williams as well that's doing her thing as far as clearing, and I like hers because she helps you to do with the goddess clearing as well. So if you're looking for that, go on divineunisols11.co, go on there, and that will also help you to get a program that will help you to work with that childhood experience and those wounds that you need to clear. All right then, everybody, you've been hanging with me this long. I will do my clearing of the cards on there because you've been a lot of hanging with me all this Saturday morning. So I love you. I thank you so very much. And as always, imparting, stay uplifted, stay motivated, stay ascended. Namaste.
Now we go.
Love you.
Love you. Bye now.